Yo, it's JSF. So Mortal Kombat 11 has been released for almost 2 years now, right? In 3 months, it'll be 2 years since the initial release of the game. And with any game, any video game in general, but especially a fighting game, if your game's been out this long, it's gonna start to get stale, right? And don't get me wrong, the NetherRealm has done some things to try to keep the game interesting, to try to keep it afloat. But I want to compare it to another game and kind of show a different way to go about it. Because even though Mortal Kombat 11 has tried things, right? Like recently with Ultimate's release in November, right, which was 2 months ago. It's only been 2 months of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 11. They did something. Excuse me. They did something I wanted them to do since day one, and they made custom variations possible. They made it possible so you can pick whatever moves you want in competitive online play, tournament play, all that good stuff, which is great, right? For the most part, people enjoyed it. Some people were annoyed about it, but it seems like we've accepted it, and most people like it, right? Great decision, but it doesn't seem like it had the effect that I would have hoped, right? It didn't really make the game any better to play. It didn't bring any more people into the game. It didn't maintain the player base that was already here, let's say Aftermath days, right? So what's going on? What's going on? What's wrong? How do you design an interesting game? How do you keep your game alive? How do you keep people interested in your game, right? Well, the most important thing in any fighting game is the characters, right? And granted, it's cool to give us, different moves and give us more options and variations and stuff like that is really, really cool. But at the end of the day, if the characters aren't interesting, it won't matter, right? And every fighting game has this, right? In every fighting game, there is a universal way to be good. There is something like, can you open your opponent up easily, right? That's always going to be powerful. Do you have strong neutral, or can you bypass the neutral, right? Certain things are going to be strong in any fighting game, right? But the problem Mortal Kombat 11 has is it's too keyed in on its own meta, if that makes sense. So basically, there's really only one way to be good in this game. Like, when a new character comes out, it's like, oh, cool, how's this character going to strike throw mix you? Do they have a 9, 10, 11 frame mid? Well, basically, that's all you're looking for, right? Stuff like that. Do they have a strong mid string, safe, low poke? Do they got a fucking charge advancing special move? Cool. Hey, character's great. Do they have a teleport? Great. Like, it's just little things like that, right? Can they always be safe? Like, it's the simplest things, and it doesn't really matter what character you talk about that's good. It will come down to the same thing, right? How are they safe? Can they mix you? Whether it's strike throw mix or overhead low 50-50, like either way. Can they deal with zoning in shit like that is basically it, right? Can they fly across the screen? Boom. If you can do all of that, you're probably top tier. But when you look at other games, right? I was just watching the Super Baby 2 showcase. And for those of you who don't know, this is Dragon Ball FighterZ. Baby Vegeta is a brand new character that's about to release for that game. But just looking at all the fighters that they've released for Season 3 of that game, right? Like, I can look at the DLC, all of the DLC for Mortal Kombat 11. Especially after Combat Pack 1, because then the latest 6 characters, right? And they have some interesting things about it, but the interest is straight up the interest of the character comes from the character of the character, if that makes sense. So like Rambo has like his traps, right? He's got like his low snare trap, he's got his little slide kick. He's got his moves because he's Rambo, right? But that's it. Like, they still function like other moves in the game already function. There are no new innovations being added to the game, and I think this is why the game gets so stale and so uninteresting. So when I look at, and I mean Rambo just one example, right? Like, if I say RoboCop, what innovations did he bring to the game? Mids and zoning. The only innovations any character really brought was Shiva, but the innovation she brought was a bullshit stomp move. A bullshit unblockable move that anybody can use to beat anybody. And Dragon Stance. I gotta say, Dragon Stance is an interesting move. That move is interesting, but that's one move out of, however many DLC characters that I can think of. But if I look at Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? And Dragon Ball FighterZ is a game that came out in 2018 in January. It's been 3 years since the release of that game, and it's still getting support, still getting DLC. But Season 3, which started about a year ago, Season 3 is the most interesting because it seems like with every single character in season 3 of Dragon Ball Fighters, they brought something new, not just like to the table, but they brought something new to the game as a whole. Like the characters can do something that most characters, if not any characters, can do, honestly. And Kefla is the least of the extreme. But, you know, she's got moves. She's got, like, teleport style moves that are uncommon in the game, that are different than, like, a typical Vanish or something like that, right? And she also has a level 3 that hits you from anywhere on the screen, which is pretty nuts. But then you get to Ultra Instinct Goku, which is completely ridiculous. He can literally walk through fireballs by just walking. And if you know anything about this game, about this character, he is completely absurd, completely busted, and ridiculous. He is the craziest thing in the game by far. And then they put out Roshi, and people were like, how are you going to follow up UI Goku with Roshi? And then this character doesn't even have one of the key system mechanics in the game, but still ended up being one of the most powerful characters in the game. Like, they found a different way, and I made a whole video about Roshi, about how interesting his design was, and, you know, how to make a character good by taking something away, but giving him a different tool to, you know, basically do what you need to do in a different way, or in a similar way, but completely different, and to have different properties, right? And then Super Baby 2, the character's coming next, has totally different new properties, like that he can shoot his fireballs, and if they whiff, they literally come back and still hit you. And he can take control of assists if he kills your characters. So what I'm saying is, and I'm really long-winded, I know I talk a lot. What I'm saying is, with that game, with Dragon Ball, they are bringing something new to the table with every character. Like, literally something that's not in the game at all, that no other character can do. All of these characters have. I mean, Kefla is debatable, but the other 3 characters so far in the season all can do something that literally wasn't in the game before. And that is just not something I can say for any of the DLC for Mortal Kombat 11, except for Shiva, but that's not even, like, Stomp isn't even the only unblockable in the game, right? A Fireball stance is cool, like I said. Dragon stance, you know, that's interesting. Too bad it's tied to a character that's completely BS, but every other character, even like Fujin has like Skywalker, but like it's not like an air move where you can traverse the screen, didn't already exist in the game. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like, if they would have got more interesting with their character designs, I think it could have made the game, like, don't get me wrong, the moves look really cool. Right? They look really cool, but they function like exactly the same way. Like, you can say, oh, Rain's down back 4, like where he turns into water and is invisible or invincible or whatever. You could say that's a move that's not in the game before, but it's just a projectile parry basically. It functions exactly like a projectile parry. You know what I mean? Like, there are other moves that are similar to that, and it's different because you can be grabbed out of that and you can't grab parries in this game, but there just aren't, the new characters, the DLC just don't really bring anything to the table that makes me say, wow, that's super interesting. Well, that is crazy. Like, how is that going to work in the game? You know what I mean? It's just, we get characters and then we go, okay, is this character broken? Is he top tier? No, nobody uses them. And like, this is why the new car smell wears off so fast, right? This is why after a week or a month of new characters being released, we go back to whatever we were doing and they're not so interesting anymore because they don't really innovate. Like, and I think it's really important with DLC and with just keeping their game alive for a long time, because after 2 years, why would people want to play this game just to get stomped by Shiva over and over again? You know what I mean? Like, why would people want to keep playing it? Like, there's a reason people play Dragon Ball Fighters and it still has solid viewership 3 years after the game's release, right? But anyway, I just wanted to talk about that, like, basically because the last video, I know a lot of people disagree with when I said it was a dead game, but I mean, it kind of is. The player base is down. The player base is not what it used to be, at least from everything I can tell, from what I see from other people, from what I see from me. I think people still watch Mortal Kombat 11. I don't think the viewership is super down, but I think the player base, I don't think people play it as much as they used to. And I think the reasoning behind people not playing it as much as they used to is because it got stale, you know? And it's sad that even getting customs and letting customs rock and competitive, it was a great thing, but that didn't even like rejuvenate the game at all. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did not notice like a massive spike in players after Ultimate. I really didn't. And now, a couple months later, it feels just like it felt before Ultimate, before we got an announcement. feels like, a dead game. And I'm sorry if y'all disagree, but the game is either dead game or the netcode shit. You gotta pick one. Anyway, y'all have fun. Stay safe. Subscribe if you enjoy the content. I'm waiting for my new controller to come in because Combat League is taking my DualSense. So, y'all stay safe out there. Stay away from Jades and the Combat League demons. JSF, I'm out. Peace.